You access analytics, working with dashboards, using the Analyze link. You rely on the reports on our shared dashboard sets, whether they're employee or financials or student dashboards, etc., in order to complete your work each day. Most often, very often, you can get the information that you need directly from the dashboards. Sometimes, however, it would be helpful if you could make a few modifications to those reports, to those analyses, to make them more customized for your particular situation, your particular department, etc. In that case, you would want to have the ability to analyze those reports. Analyze simply means that you're going to make a copy of the report for yourself. And there is an Analyze link on most of our reports on most of our dashboard pages. And that Analyze link appears at the bottom of each of the reports, along with very often the refresh or print or export links as well. So you can see I happen to be here on an employee dashboard called Organization Overview, and I'm on the Organization Overview page for this dashboard set. There are a few prompts at the top of the page, some other pieces of information, and then I have a number of different analyses, a number of different reports on the page, all of which appear to have the Analyze link, and I could analyze any one of those individual reports. But I'm scrolling down here to the bottom of the page because this is the report that I'm more interested in and would like to be able to modify this report to whatever degree it is I need to make those changes. Some of those changes I could make on the dashboard, but in this case, I want to use the Analyze link to make my own copy of it for my own reasons, whatever those reasons might be. So I can click the Analyze link, and the system will make a copy of that report and open that report for me in edit mode. And when I go into edit mode, the report typically opens on the Criteria tab. Yours may open on the Results tab, but it's the same report. The very first thing that you'll want to do is click the Save As button. And when you click the Save As button, the system is going to want to save the report in the large Shared Folders folder, but you won't be able to do that. If you try to save it in this folder, the system will give you an error saying you don't have the rights to do so. So you'll need to click into your own folders, perhaps create a subfolder for this, and perhaps save it in a particular subfolder. I'm going to save mine in my Employee Analyses folder, and I'm just going to call it Department Demographic without that code on the end of it. So just Department Demographics is what I'll call my version of this report, and I'll click OK. Now that I've got it saved and you can see that the change has been made in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, I want to take a look at the report and review what I have on the screen just to make sure that I understand what's going on. This report is created from a small series of data columns. There are a number of different filters available to me as well. Notice that a number of them say that they are prompted. Those are the filters that were used when this report was on the dashboard to allow the user of that dashboard to filter the report differently every time they ran the report. In this case, I don't really need some of these filters, so I will end up deleting some of these, but I'm going to save that for just a moment. I do want to check the Results tab as well just to see what I have going on there. And I have the basic report that I was looking at before. It's just ethnicity and gender and gives me some basic information here. And I just wanted to make a couple of different changes to this, perhaps as I went through. The other thing I want to make a note of is how many views are available down here in the Views pane. It looks like there's a lot of views that are available down here, but when I look on my screen, I'm really only using two. I'm using one called Static Text 3 and another one called Gender and Ethnicity Table. And again, at this point, I'm just making notes for myself because there is a decision that I need to make here. Is this the right, am I using the right document to help me analyze this report, to help me make a copy of this report? Should I be using the Working with Dashboards using the Analyze link document, which is what this little video is about? Or if the report is too complex If it's more complex than this report, perhaps I should be using another document called Next Steps Constructing and Deconstructing View Selectors. Let me show you where I would get that other document if I needed to. I'll go over to the UAccess community and go to the resource page for analytics. And on this analytics resource page, I would scroll down. And the other document that I would be interested in using perhaps for this situation is Next Steps Constructing and Deconstructing View Selectors. That document would be of more help if it's a very complex report that I'm trying to analyze. A complex report such as the General Financial Management Current Account Balance Report. This report has a lot of things going on and a lot of different views to select from, a lot of different filters, a lot of different data columns that you won't see on every view. For a report like that, I would use the constructing and deconstructing view selectors. For the simple report, relatively simple report that we're working with here, ethnicity and gender, I would stick with the working with dashboards using the Analyze Link document. All right, so now we know that we're working with the right document on the right type of report. What I'm going to want to do at this point is just, again, note what is going on the screen, make a couple of handwritten notes about what I want to change. Maybe I want to change the position or location of some of these data columns, make changes to whatever it is that I need to make changes for that would suit my needs. But along with making those changes to make this report suit my needs, what I also want to do is clean this report up. Get rid of unused data columns, get rid of unused views, get rid of unused filters. So I usually start on the Criteria tab, and I'll take a look at these filters that I have going on here and see if there's anything that I don't need. Reviewing the filters, I have job department name is prompted. Active job indicator is equal to an A, just means that the people are active in their job. Another job department filter that is already filtered to my own department. This little code that you see right here just means it's always going to be filtered to the department for the logged in person. Now you can change that to be your department number, or you can leave it as at this and it'll always look at your department anyway. Then I have an ABOR code description is prompted filter and a college name for job department is prompted. If I don't need any of those is prompted filters, the best bet is to hover over them and delete those filters. One by one, delete the filters that I don't need. And that cleans the filters up. And again, if I really need to, I can hover over this filter as well and edit the filter. And I can get rid of that session variable, and I can actually type my job department into this field, making sure that I get the right values. In this case, it's a numeric value. I know my department is department 9940, so I can simply type that in there, and now this filter is always set to my department. So that's the first cleanup that I'm going to do. The second cleanup, I'm taking a look at the data columns that I have in this report, and I think I actually want all of them to remain there, so I'm not going to delete any of those data columns. I'm going to take a look in another place and see if there's anything else I should be deleting, but for right now I'm going to leave those in place. Now I'm going to go back to the Results tab and run the report again, and the report is running. It's exactly the same report I was looking at earlier. It's just that I've gotten rid of a few filters that I didn't need, but I didn't remove any of the data columns. Now I'm going to look at this Views pane over here in the lower left-hand corner. As I mentioned a few moments ago, there are a lot of views here, but it looks like I'm only really using two of them in this particular case. And also on this report, I do have 3 different compound layout screens. Ethnicity compound, gender compound, but the one I want is ethnicity and gender compound layout. So I can delete some of these other extra things here that are causing this report to run a little bit slower than it needs to run. So I want to keep static text 3 and gender and ethnicity. What I can do down here in the views pane is one by one select some of these other views that are not being used and click the little double-headed arrow button, the Show More Buttons button, and remove those views from the analysis. that permanently removes them. Now, I'm going to keep that table. I'm going to keep the gender and ethnicity table as well because that's what I have here. I very often will keep the basic table. But I don't need any of these other views that are available to me here. So one by one, I should go through at some point, and some point early in the process, and remove those views as you can. Now, I'm not going to remove them all for this example, but you get the idea. I am going to keep title 3 because, or nope, that's static text 3. So I'll get rid of all this stuff. So the only ones I would keep are static text 3, the ethnicity, gender and ethnicity table, and the table itself. Because I like to keep the basic table. Everything else should be deleted at some point. And then once I've gotten rid of all that excess stuff, then I would look at the last thing I want to look at here is how this report is built. And to do that, here on the Results tab, I'll click the pencil button for this particular table, the Edit View button. It's a picture of the pencil. And take a look at what I have on my screen. This is actually a pivot table, which I already knew, but they called it a table on the front end. And notice that I'm using the gender column, the ethnicity column, headcount, positions, and job. And then if I scroll down a little bit, I have 3 other columns down here that are not being used. They are in the excluded area, and they are not being used in this pivot table, which is what I want to keep. So at some point, I should also get rid of all 3 of these extra data columns because these slow down the report, especially ones like employee ID. That pulls a lot of data for 50 people that I don't need pulled for this report. So you can click on the gear button, the more options button, for any of those columns that are in the excluded area. If you know that you truly don't want them, and you remove that column, the system is going to ask you, are you sure? And you click OK, and that column will be deleted just like that. It's not changing the report at all. It's just removing the column so that the report is no longer pulling that extra information that is not needed. Once I've cleaned up all this report, and I should get rid of those other 2, but for purposes of the demonstration, you understand what I'm doing. I'll get rid of all those, and I'll click Done. And I'm back on my basic report on the Results tab. And now the last thing I want to do for this report, I would also get rid of these extra compound layout screens. And I can do that by simply selecting one of them. And there's a Delete Compound Layout button right here. And I could delete that compound layout, the one that I'm on. I could do the same thing for the other one that I'm on right now, delete that, and I'm left with the simplest version of this report that I can get. It's the one that has the table and static text field that I need. I would have removed all the excess views down here, and I would have removed all the extra data columns and all the extra filters, and that's how you use the Analyze link to make a nice clean copy of the report that you found on a dashboard page, and you make a nice clean copy for yourself and for your department. Don't forget to click the Save As or the Save button one more time to make sure that you save that report with all the changes that you've just made. And that is working with dashboards using the Analyze link.